Hi, my name is Sasha Barab. I'm a director for the Center for Games and Impact at Arizona State University. And I have been working with trying to understand and unlock the power of games now for about a decade. It all started, I was a drug counselor in Oakland, California, working with kids who were struggling to find new identities. Many of them, we were a juvenile detention center, so many of them were locked up and were trying to figure out how can I create a new future. And what I found in that experience is kind of for myself was the power of education, and feeling like I could succeed in schools really created new opportunities for these kids. So I spent much of my kind of first years as an educator really working through how do I help kids who normally are not succeeding in the existing system find themselves leveraging educational tools and different kinds of literacies to do things in the world that they felt mattered and that gave them new possibilities of who they could become. All of that led initially to a number of technology-based projects where I was trying to create kind of spaces where kids could come in, explore something like a park where fish were dying, and I could build out a world where they could go and collect data, make analysis, and then eventually they would start to apply various science skills, literacies, even knowledge to interpret these worlds and to take actions in them that would transform them. So for example, in one game around water quality, they would run around the world, fish were dying, and they would have to collect data from different stakeholders, like from the loggers or the farmers, and use that data to try to figure out why are fish dying in this park. In order to do that well, they would have to do things like analyze the data and say, wow, the pH or the turbidity or the dissolved oxygen levels are very low. And in order to understand that in relation to a stakeholder, they'd have to think through, if fertilizer runoff was coming in the water and it was causing algae blooms to occur, when those algae blooms die, we have dissolved oxygen gets used up, and therefore fish can't breathe properly. And all that started to enable me to see that there were many kids who normally opt out of science when it's a remembering kind of knowledge acquisition experience, who all of a sudden got really excited, talked a lot, lots of chatter when they saw science as giving them skills that enabled them to change things. And when I turned it from a simulation and brought it more into a game, they started to develop a playfulness with their learning experience that was not so much about what does the teacher want or how do I look good here, to more how do I play with this idea. And when they would fail, unlike the rest of the school, it became a laughing moment, and they would look at, well, what went wrong, and failure became feedback for me that what I thought I knew I didn't really know, or how I applied what I thought I knew didn't really make sense. So I got really into the power of games and the power of play for helping young people develop a relationship and appreciate the value of the domains that we have in school. And all too often in school, we start with, here's what you need to know. We frequently give them facts that are removed from any meaningful application, instead of here's why, or here's a problem that needs solving, and here's the kind of disciplinary knowledge in our schools that would allow them to do that. Well, I worked on a number of projects that Quest Atlantis was one that was very well known, that had anywhere from 10,000 to 100,000 kids. And we would collect a lot of data to build more insight into theory. And one of the things that many people would say, well, why would you want kids to go into a virtual world to learn science? Why not bring them to a real park? One of the problems of life in general as a teaching is that when you're a school and a teacher and you have standards and you have limited numbers of field trips, and if you go to a park, you actually have to get permission to get out of other teachers' classes. And then when you get there, the kinds of really powerful experiences that happen because you're outdoors don't often lend themselves to the kind of content that the kids in their class are held accountable for knowing. So one of the real powers of virtual worlds are that we can design these worlds to be pedagogically useful for the kinds of ways that we're holding teachers accountable to their kids' understanding. But one of the limitations is that the power of a playful experience in which you have a world that if you don't use science correctly, it doesn't transform meaningfully. That same power has the potential of it becoming a game and playful experience within the confines of the virtual world, and not a new power that I have as an individual to go do meaningful things in the world. So we've been exploring, hugely inspired by James Paul G, this idea of what he calls small g bounded games and big G infrastructures. And when you look at really popular games like World of Warcraft, Minecraft, you see that the games themselves are really great. But what's really awesome are the conversations that happen around the games. The way that the friends develop YouTube videos on Minecraft that they share with other people that allow them to think differently about their gameplay. Or on World of Warcraft when you had raids where you go out with 50, 60, 80 people at a time, all playing together for 3 hours online. And so what we've been trying to do, a lot of times in education, we think, okay, games are great, therefore I'm going to develop one and it's going to do learning. And getting the learning to have the same resonance with the player that these commercial games do is really hard. And what we've been trying to do is not just look at the game as teaching kids, but how the games can be a part of a larger learning trajectory that is supported by teachers, involves other kinds of experiences, sometimes even lectures or talking heads like you're seeing now. Sometimes it involves analyzing documents, reading articles. And I think as we move forward, I don't think it's going to be one medium that's going to fix everything for all kids at all times. And it's going to be more of how we build together experiences and how we support even learners in building together experiences that help them develop the skills that are useful, and we connect the knowledge and the literacies they're developing with how they might use those in the real world. And so I think where games are very powerful as they create a play space where I can get embedded feedback, where I can fail safely, where I can try on roles that I might not have in the real world. But what's going to make them really, really powerful is when we use the games as part of the experience that follows me into the real world and helps me continue to develop, to evolve, to try on those literacies in those places where they're useful, not just in the confines of my classroom or a virtual world that's been designed to teach.